Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right.
Bless you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure not full screen. Dark slideshow. Present from beginning. Let's see. Okay. So I'm gonna have to change. I'm gonna change the. I'm gonna change this screen to only this. Okay. But is it small though, or is it big for you?
Let me see. Hold
What happened?
on. It's not small, but it's really blurry.
Really? Okay.
Like I can't read anything when I zoom in.
What about now?
Let me see. Yeah, that's much better.
Okay. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna minimize that, and we're gonna do boom, boom. Okay, is that better?
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it is.
All right, bet.
Ooh.
All right, all right, all right. Hold on, let me fix this real quick. Because this is supposed to be streaming. Okay, bet. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Cool, cool, cool. All right, cool. See what you can see. All right, that works. That works for me. All right, bet. So let me hit RJ real quick. All right, February 3rd, man. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like it took forever to get here. I feel like we've been waiting on this study for a month and some change. Um, this is gonna be a big one. This is gonna be huge. Hold on, let me turn my ring light on. Hold on. I've been so caught up on the technical side. I've been slacking. Okay. Yeah, this study. Wait, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, bad. Okay. Um, this study is definitely the biggest, most impactful study that I've ever done. And I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be a lot, which is why I made the study guides. Now the study guide is optional, like obviously you don't have to do it, but if you find yourself like, you know, struggling to,
Hello.
Yo, what's up, Rachel?
Wait.
What's up? Okay, so
There we go.
normally during Feed the Spirit, when we read the Bible, we normally only stream to Twitch, but since we're starting our big study tonight, we're streaming to YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. So, but I'm not able to read. I mean, I could, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to read the YouTube, Instagram, or Twitch chats. I'm only going to read the Discord chat. So this is it's still y'all world. You know what I'm saying? But I was just going over the study guide. So I dropped the study guide in the main chat. It's 100% optional. Okay, you don't have to follow along with the study guide at all. But if you find yourself like struggling to remember or retain the info, it's a good resource. You feel what I'm saying? Because this study, we're going to be streaming it Tuesday and Wednesday throughout February. So if next week comes around and you need like a little refresher, you can always go back to that study guide. You feel me?
Yeah.
All right.
That study guide is so nice.
You said it's nice.
I'm
Hey,
gonna read it.
appreciate it.
That study guide is so.
It took me a while to like, because it was hard to track because obviously we can't just stream it all the way through in one night. So it was like, next week I want to make sure that they're able to pick it up from what we covered last week. So tracking those overarching things was kind of tricky, but yeah, I think they'll be good. I do have a disclaimer real quick that I want to read because this is a big undertaking, to cover a topic like slavery. Not only in the Bible but also in America, it's a huge undertaking, and I want to just make sure that we're on the same page. You feel what I'm saying? Because when I was doing my research, there's so many topics that are not only very sensitive in general, but not only very sensitive in general, but also very sensitive in terms of like, when we near the end of the study, we're going to cover a lot of black voices, and we're gonna sort of touch on their experiences under slavery, within slavery, under the institution of Christianity in America. And I don't want to come off as insensitive, but I physically can't cover all of history. You know what I mean? So I wanted to make that known. So I wrote a little disclaimer. You feel me? So that we're all on the same page. All right, let me start it up. All right, these are extremely sensitive topics, and I want to create a disclaimer before the stream, so that we're all on the same page of understanding each other. I wanted to make it clear that I will not be not be able to shed light on all of the horrific details due to Twitch, Instagram, and YouTube terms of service. I also can't show specific images due to YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram terms of service, right? But also due to time, there's no way that I could cover everything, okay? So this is a Christian study. So we're going to be covering Christianity and slavery within Christianity and within the Bible from a Christian perspective. I know there are a lot of people that I invited to this study on Instagram, as well as YouTube and Twitch, that are not Christians. This is still open forum. So when we have the last session, the discernment session, we will open it up for Christians and non-Christians to really discuss and talk. And I really look forward to that day. But I want to make sure we're on the same page. Like, this is a Christian study, so we will be tackling these issues from a Christian perspective. Like I just said, this study is open discussion. Y'all know that I'm a yapaholic, so feel free to cut me off at any time. Okay. Like I said, I can't touch on all of the historical context. So if you have something you want to add, some maybe historical context, a little quick fact here, be like, oh yeah, let me just add, this was also the case, or, oh yeah, let me just add, this was also the case, or this verse also applies, or, cut me off. Okay. My goal tonight is not to win an argument. Okay? My goal tonight is to seek truth and to honor the voices of those who suffered and pursue a faith that aligns with the text of the Bible. Right? I want to emphasize that last part. Throughout the entirety of this study, I made sure to make sure that any conclusion or point I came to aligned with the text of the Bible in its full context. Okay? Now, you all may disagree or agree. I'm not here to tell you what to think, right? So I don't know about that one. Please say it, vocalize it so we can open the discussion. Most of this study was written as I myself was struggling through these questions. That is a question that pops into our brain. Like, let's not, that is a question that pops into our brain. Like, let's not fake the funk. You know what I'm saying? That's a very valid question. So I myself was struggling through these questions and objections. And this research was done with the utmost intellectual honesty and integrity. But remember that I am a human, right? Like, I'm not infallible. Right? Now, halfway through the study, it dawned on me, wait, I can actually add the links to my sources in my notes. So I had to go back and start to add the links to my sources directly into my reading notes. Right? But if there's something that you want to fact check me on, and I welcome all fact checks. If I say something, I welcome all fact checks. If I say something, anything that comes out my mouth, feel free to say, let me get a fact check on that. That's what we're here for. We're not here to just hear me talk. We're here for the facts. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, feel free to fact check me on anything. You could either type it, or I would like for you to just say it out loud, so I can stop right then and there and pull the source readily available. I will write them into my reading guide. So the ones that I have in my reading guide are organized, but if it's not in there, I'll have to go back to my notes and I'll get back to you on that. But I will write them all down, and by the last session, I will have all the fact checks for everything that I've ever said in the study available, right? And I'm guys, so, but I just want to give the disclaimer anyway. All right, so let's see. Some of us carry the generational wounds that are connected to these topics such as slavery, Jim Crow, segregation. A lot of us hear stories of our family members, of our ancestors that went through very traumatic things. Some of us may feel anger, grief, confusion, or even numbness to the topic. I want to let you guys know that all of those responses are valid, and you are welcome to bring your full humanity into this place. Okay? any opinion, any if you want to say, hey man, listen, if you want to say, hey man, listen, that was terrible, and I'm having a hard time reconciling. That was terrible, and I'm having a hard time reconciling how a Christian could do that. This is the space for those types of comments and for those types of conversations. Okay, I just want to let that be known. Let's see the findings. The findings from my research not only denounce slavery from the perspective of the Bible, but it further separates slavery from God, and the Bible. But also to provide the main goal for this study was I wanted to get to the bottom of how does God feel about slavery. Not only slavery in the Bible, but I wanted to get to the bottom of how does God feel about slavery in America, right? And what I found. Oh, one more thing. And this is probably the most important part, most important disclaimer. I do not speak for God himself. I know it's shocking that I might have to say that, but I promise you there's gonna be somebody out there, but listen, I do not speak for God. Somebody out there, but listen, I do not speak for God. I'm not here to declare divine verdicts or to pretend that I have perfect insight into the mind of the Almighty, right? What I am doing is I'm taking scripture, I'm taking history, and them with as much integrity, reverence, and honesty as I can. My goal is to interpret faithfully, not infallibly. So, yes, now, without further ado, this is the greatest lie ever told, slavery in the Bible and under the institution of Christianity in America, a Christian study. All right, so really of the study, there's going to be 3 sessions. First will be the history. The history really covers the historical context that slavery existed in, mainly in the Bible. The philosophy is where we kind of touch on slavery in America. The Old Testament as well as the New Testament. We kind of go over some of the justifications of slavery that were used by slave holders in America, but not so much. You're going to find out. We're exposing the 3,000-year hermeneutical fraud. We're also going to go over what hermeneutical means. We're going to be going over ancient legal systems and how ancient Near Eastern laws influenced biblical legislation. We're going over divine accommodation, why God regulated slavery rather than abolished it. The philosophy, we will go over the core of hermeneutics, which basically is how scripture is interpreted. What lens do we look at scripture with? We will cover Frederick Douglass and his idea of 2 Christianities. Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth and prophetic action. Howard Thurman, one of my personal favorites, he wrote a book called Jesus and the Disinherited, which was heavily read by Martin Luther King. Famous pictures of him holding this book right before the Montgomery bus boycott. So, right before the Montgomery bus boycott. So, I can't wait to get the lived experience of Black Americans for interpreting the cross of Jesus session. Is going to be the discernment. This is where it really gets open forum. The discernment is where I'll be reading all chats. So if you're open forum, the discernment is where I'll be reading all chats. So if you're watching on during the history or the philosophy, you will be able to chime in during the section about everything that we learned. And another thing, a lot of the section about everything that we learned. And another thing, a lot of the information might not suffice for everybody. Like I said, I'm not trying to win any arguments. I'm not trying to persuade anyone to become a Christian. I'm just in scripture. Okay, so if you found the study helpful, you'll be able to say it. Okay, so if you found the study helpful, you'll be able to say it in the discernment. If you didn't like it, you'll be, all you guys see it through, and I get to hear your thoughts in the end. Okay. All right. Why this topic matters? Because as I've been promoting why this topic matters. Because as I've been promoting the study, guys, how many people ask me, why does that matter? And before I even touch on the slide, let 2026. If you are a Christian, if you're American, you understand Christianity because Christianity is in the heart and soul of America. Whether you believe, people say Jesus like they say the word "the," crossed all of our minds. The burning question: how crossed all of our minds? The burning question: how did Christianity in America? That should cross all of our minds, at least, and we know the religion we follow. So if other in America, and that question should lead you to: is another atrocity capable of arising out of Christianity in America? These are valid questions. Not only are these valid questions, as a Christian, these questions are pertinent, especially in 2026. Okay, so I just wanted to say that, and after this session, I hope the question burns: how did slavery thrive? Not only survive, but it thrived under Christianity in America. How was that possible? So why this topic matters. Understanding spiritual bondage. This presentation explores how Black faith and theology have been powerful forces while demonstrating how enslaved peoples reclaimed the true liberating message of Christianity. We are reclaiming theological narratives. We will uncover the intellectual archive of understanding the theological foundations of justice. This is essential for any Christian seeking to understand the true gospel of liberation. In other words, freedom. That's just a general quote from the Agora that we like to say. History is not a dusty collection of facts. It's a living archive of bold ideas, dangerous minds, and forgotten truths. Critical questions. These are questions that I literally had asked of me. Now I kind of dramatize it up a little bit. But if God was whispering freedom in 1400, dramatic. But one of the main questions that I was asked when preparing this study was, where was God during slavery? And every time I was asked that question, it struck me to the soul. You know what I mean? And it was a question that I couldn't readily answer off the top of my head, and that doesn't mean that, and if you can't answer that off the top of your head, that doesn't mean you're a bad Christian. That just means that this is a good question. You know what I'm saying? And from following Christ like I have been, one thing I know is that God does not shy away from good questions. So I hope that this research, the obstacle, because this is an obstacle, especially for a Black. I've had white people ask me this question too. Don't get me wrong. This is not just something that Black people ask. In fact, when talking to atheists, which I used to do. I don't really do it too much anymore. But most atheists who were white would ask me this question. So this isn't just a Black question. I think this is a question that anyone would ask if they're being honest. Where was God during slavery? So I hope to speak to that in this study. And this is another big one that I got. If the Bible was used to break our ancestors, is the book or how can we trust the God in the Bible today? Which, again, another good question. Let's see. All right, what you will learn. So we're going to go over debunking the curse of Ham, ancient legal systems, the two Christianities, identifying the critical difference between the Christianity of Christ and the Christianity to reclaim their faith. We're going to cover liberating voices. Like Frederick Douglass all the way to James Cone. How they reclaimed the liberating gospel, each contributing essential insight. Cover hermeneutical discernment. This is probably the most important part right here. Point 3 and point 5. Apply 4 critical tests for evaluating theological claims. Apply 4 critical tests for evaluating theological claims: authority, logic, experience, and fruit. And these are essential tools for discernment. What does that mean? A lot of big words for discernment. What does that mean? A lot of big words. What it means is you can't believe people, the Bible can be and has been used out of context and sometimes halfway within context to justify a lot of evil atrocities. So we're going to cover how to see through how can I test what that person is saying? How can I make sure that that claim is accurate? And the key word there is context. Understand what Christians must do in the face of racism. Christians must do in the face of racism and theological fragmentation, which basically means how people. All right, are y'all awake? I got to let me hear some feedback because I've been yapping. Yes, sir. Let me. How you feel about the study so far? I know we just got through the intro, but what you thinking? How you feel about the study so far? I know we just got through the intro, but what you thinking?
Very educational, very informative.
Very educational, very informative. Without further ado, man, let's go ahead and dive in. If you again, if I'm going too fast, stop me. If you further ado, man, let's go ahead and dive in. If you again, if I'm going too fast, stop me. If you don't understand what something means, no one knows your name here. You can speak up. You know what I'm saying? You can say, "Hey, what's that mean?" I don't want anybody to feel any shame. I don't want anybody to feel like any shame. I don't want anybody to feel like embarrassed. That's how you learn. You gotta ask questions. And that's how you learn. You gotta ask questions. And a lot of this stuff, matter of fact, 99% of this stuff, I was like, what does that mean? Probably like 6 days straight. Asking myself, what is it? Yeah, go ahead.
We finna be Planet Fitness in this joint, and no judgment zone.
Facts, no judgment zone. Yes, sir. So if you have any questions, debunking the curse of Ham and ancient legal systems, we begin by exposing the fraudulent theological foundations of the curse of Ham and ancient legal systems. We begin by exposing the fraudulent theological foundations of racial slavery. What does that mean? So, the curse of Ham. 5. We're going to read this so-called curse of Ham. Read full chapter. So the reason why the curse of Ham is important is because the curse of Ham was used to justify racialized slavery. What that means is the curse of Ham was used to say black people should be slaves. How they got there, that's what we're going to talk about. So if you have your Bibles, you can turn to Genesis 9:25 and Genesis 9:25. And I'm pretty sure we all know this story. This is a story that I overlooked. Anything of it, I certainly didn't gather black people should be slaves from it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that didn't cross my mind. But we're going to read it. So the sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. So Ham was a person. Ham was one of the sons of Noah who came out of the ark. This is after Ham was the father of Canaan. So Ham was a person. Ham was one of the sons of Noah who came out of the ark. This is after God flooded the earth, right? Let's see. These were the 3 sons of Noah, and from them came the people who were scattered over the whole earth. Noah, when he drank some of its wine, he became drunk and lay uncovered in his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father naked and told his 2 brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it across their shoulders, and they walked backwards to cover their father's naked body. Their faces were okay. So basically, Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father. Ham, the father of Canaan. Yes. Now, Um, and Ham told the other people that were with them, "Hey, listen, he's in there naked." So the two brothers gathered a garment to cover the nakedness of Noah. Then they walked in back away so that no one could see them. His wine and found out that what his youngest son had done to him. He said, "Cursed be Canaan, the lowest of slaves. He will be to the Lord, the God of Shem. May Canaan be the slave of Shem. May God extend Japheth's territory. May Japheth live in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be the slave of Japheth." Theology used this curse to justify that black people were fit for servitude, but not only fit for servitude, that God ordained black people to be slaves. But the curse of Ham is it was not found in the text. It was read into the text to provide the transatlantic slave trade. The distortion's purpose. This provided moral cover. What does this mean? This means that through this lie of the curse of Ham, Christians were allowed to participate in slavery while also saying, "We're not doing anything wrong." God.
Was Noah and his descendants dark skin? Like, how did they correlate slaves to black people?
Good question. See, let's go. We find 3 incredible leaps. When I say leaps, I mean, how did you get there, right? Just like Stephen, just like you just asked. How did they get there? They leaped, right? If you want to replace the word leap with lie, that also fits. The curse on his son Canaan applies to all black people. In this, the idea of race. So back then, slaveholders believed, not only slaveholders, early Christians, so that we see today. So this is the understand why the curse is not about blackness. We must look at okay. Let's see. Let's stick to here. I want to jump ahead. So the false claim, because Ham is the father, curse is surgically limited to Canaan. Ham's other 3 sons, the ones who actually founded African civilizations, are never cursed. So this was a curse on Africa. The land of Cush was located in sub-Saharan Africa, right? The land of Cush was not cursed, right? The land of Cush was not cursed. Let's see. Mizraim, located in North Africa, they were not cursed. Put, which is located not cursed, but Canaan, which was the Levant, which is located in the middle, Canaan was cursed. Okay, so so to answer your question, Stephen, how did they jump to that? The ones who came out of the ark, Ham would have went and become the founder of that civilization. Canaan would have went and become the founder of that civilization. These civilizations in which races eventually came to be. This is what they believed. So they believed that because Ham was that any curse on Ham meant a curse on the African people.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
So they believe that Ham was the father of the African nations, right? Like Cush, Put, and there was just all African people. So that's verse to black people. All African people. So that's verse to black people, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correlation.
All right.
The
Okay.
correlation.
All right. Bet. All right. The leap of. Okay, Deb. Did you notice? Bet. All right. The leap of. Okay, Deb. Did you notice who was cursed and who wasn't?
Canaan was cursed. He said, "Cursed be to Canaan," but Ham was the one who found them naked.
Right. Ham was the one who found him naked. Right. Now, why Noah did that, I couldn't tell you, honestly. Yeah, I couldn't tell you why he cursed Canaan instead of Ham. Was never cursed. Only Canaan was cursed. So this idea of the curse of Ham, it's pretty. Read through these sections. The question that should be on our mind is, and the consistent answer is lies. So we're going to be unpacking these lies. But yeah, to answer your question, Dev, why was Canaan cursed when Ham? I really don't know. I really don't know. When we get to heaven, we can ask. What
Yeah.
was you thinking? Right? Drunk and naked.
That's public intoxication and public
Public indecency. 100%. All right, bet. So.
and probably could catch a charge on sexual assault on a minor or something.
Oh
They were
yeah.
naked.
For
I don't
sure.
know.
For sure. You probably could. You probably could.
Bro's wilding out.
Wilding out. All right. So this is gonna root from that, meaning black or burnt. This is God marking skin color as a sign of the curse. So this is what they, right? Reality. Dr. David Goldenberg's exhaustive analysis proves heck or shahli from Egyptian Kim or Kemet, referring to the fertile black soil. Right? So speaking a little more to that the Ham equals blackness equals curse connection is a linguistic fabrication of later centuries. What does this mean? This to skin color. This was a lie that was made up centuries period. It was around the time period that the transatlantic slave trade was deemed profitable. The slaveholders like to push these ideas. Oh, the early Christians always believed this. And they do that in an attempt to further justify slavery. Okay, or I'm not doing anything wrong because it's in the Bible. But the reality is they made up these claims as they went. All of these claims were never held by early Christians. And let's see, what did the early church actually believe? So Dr. of Ham in the 19th century American Christianity, he says, we know Augustine, which was a North African,